everybody, and welcome to Problem Solve Her. I'm your co-host, Chloe, along with my girl,
Dagmar.
Daggy's in the house. And today we have Rebecca Stevenson is in the house. It's an all-female podcast today, although 25% of our listeners are men. We are a fun, innovative, cool podcast where people can share their stories and be real and raw. And it's like a family here. Dagmar and I have created our own family within a family. And Rebecca
Mhm.
is one of my sistren from Yard, from Jamaica. Woo!
Mhm.
And for those that are not listening but watching once this is out on YouTube, and they say, "My God, there's white Jamaicans," because a lot of people all the time say, "Wait, no." And Jamaica is of one of many cultures, as in white Jamaicans, shiny, coolie. We can say these things, no one get canceled. And Portuguese and high color, low color. There's all types of Jamaicans. They come in every shape, size, and color. And we're so happy to have Rebecca today because Rebecca is a real badass. She is a real estate guru on the island of Jamaica. She's been in the biz over a decade. I think when I first met you, you were just starting.
Yes.
And Rebecca was at Coldwell Banker for a long time. And then she took over the franchise of the agency. And if you don't know who Mauricio is, from the Housewives of Beverly Hills, from Kyle and his other shows, and I don't tell you, you're under a rock because the agency's exploded. I have one right down the street from me on Las Solas in Fort Lauderdale. And Rebecca has taken over this franchise in Jamaica. And she was awarded, just awarded from the agency, the Chairman Award
Yes.
for sales at the top 5 percentile of over 2,000 agents. So that's like a big, big deal. And she's a mother and she's a wife, and her husband Taff is her business partner, and she's
Mhm.
juggling a lot of things. So, Rebecca, welcome to the podcast. We are so
Welcome.
excited. Woo! We're kind of matching. We're in the greenish mustardish
Yes, I'm feeling
zone
that.
family of colors.
Yes.
And Rebecca, let's just start with, first of all, because a lot of people will want to know this right away, how you have an agency, which is a big name worldwide, and you're a mother, and you're a wife, and you have 20 agents, and you manage to not only do deals, but like make money. So please explain to people how you juggle that to begin with.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me, Chloe and Dagmar. How do I juggle it all? Well, I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe work is life and life is work. And I believe more in work-life integration, right? So if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And so I basically I don't think of a work week. I just think of days. It's just it's just days. Like if I have to work on a Sunday, I'm not resentful of that because, I'm enjoying what I do. So I'm kind of just pivoting from like one role to another, like multiple times throughout the day. Like I break my time up into my days into segments really. And then I like micro break those down into like 15-minute increments. Like I'm going to do like 15 minutes of phone calls right now, or 15 minutes of emails, and then 15 minutes of, looking at my daughter's report card and checking her homework or whatever it may be. And I kind of just pivoting from one thing to another. I kind of feel like a chef in a kitchen when he's cooking a dish. Like I have many pots on the fire and I'm stirring one and then I'm flipping an egg over here. And then I'm like, that's kind of like how I do it. And I try not to get overwhelmed. If something is overwhelming me, then I'll pause that task and move to the next task. That's really how I do it.
It's organized chaos and it works for you.
It is. And I schedule everything. If I don't put it in my calendar, it's not gonna happen. Like I literally schedule everything. If you schedule it, it's real, it happens. And I used to think that I could remember things, but after children, I can't remember anything. So like I have to like literally write everything down. Like literally write it down in my calendar.
I love it. I have notes everywhere. I'm old school, pen and paper, write everything down. before we really get into business and, what it's like to be an agent on, it's Jamaica's still a third world country. And thank God they're really coming back even stronger after Hurricane Melissa that hit us a few months back. Tell us what it was like, because people love hearing this. Dill, my brother and I have done this with Dagmar. We did 2 episodes on growing up in Jamaica, and like we had amazing feedback and reviews because people find it so interesting. So if you could just kind of give a little bit of where in Jamaica you grew up, what it was like growing up in Jamaica, and what that experience was, really just for you in general.
Okay, well, I had a great childhood. Very, very interesting upbringing. My mother is British as tea and crumpets. She worked at the British High Commission for over 28 years. She was one of their longest serving staff there, so she never lost her accent. And then my dad was Jamaican, English mom, Jamaican dad. I grew up in Kingston, Jamaica. I have five brothers and sisters, but I'm the youngest of a blended family of yours, mine, and ours. So really, it was just me and my brother growing up. Graham. Gosh, what can I say? I had an idyllic, like Caribbean child upbringing, climbing mango trees, like running in the yard, eating all the fresh fruit. On the weekends, we would drive out to Fort Clarence or, go to the beach. And it was a great, great childhood. Jamaica is magical to grow up in because there's something wild about it, you know? And there's something wild about being raised as like, by a mother who made Jamaica her home. She would take me shopping in Papine Market and she would be like the only white woman in there and she would be like
She
haggling
would
and
take you to Papine. Wow, that's impressive.
she would take me on a Saturday morning.
What?
She would take me to Papine Market and she would just be there haggling in her like Baroque and patois. No man, that's too expensive, man. Me no pay that, in the market and just being a child and being like so embarrassed. Like my mother is so embarrassing. Like she's, negotiating with these people and, not understanding that she was actually teaching me skills that I use today. Like I use literally on a daily basis.
If you can negotiate with a Jamaican, you can get very far in life. That's a fact.
Absolutely, girl. So I would say it was 10 out of 10. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love that I grew up in Jamaica. I love that Jamaica is my home.
Love that for you. When we had Rain on, she had, Rainy. Actually, I met you through Rain.
Yeah.
She said something very similar, just, what it's like growing up as a child in Jamaica. And you just, how do you go wrong? It's just like you said, you pick mango from the tree, chop coconut, drink jelly, swim in the sea. And I think that people don't understand it's a different lifestyle from other Caribbean islands. One, it's the third largest, right, in terms of population. So all these other small islands, St. Kitts, Nevis, Aruba, there's like 20, 30,000, maybe 100,000 people. We're talking about millions. And I started going to Jamaica in the early 80s. My parents had been there, since the 70s. And that's where they found Emerald Forest. It was nothing. It was just a big piece of bush, big bush. And they wanted to be there. And it was like they had to be. And so I was so lucky to grow up between New York and Jamaica. And the two, they're such different worlds. But I say this all the time on here, right, Daggy, that growing up in those two different environments really shaped who I am as an adult, and just like it's shaping you. So I don't even remember what you did before real estate. I was trying to think about this while we're talking. I'm like, what did she even do before that?
I barely remember what I did before real estate. Um, I had a jewelry business, so with my mother. And what was really great is when I turned 18, my mother gave me a trip to Bali. She took me to Bali and she introduced me to the whole entire world of designing silver jewelry with semi precious stones and all of that jazz. Yeah, I guess I went to college, and when I finished college, I came back to Jamaica. I left England. I was in England for like, a number of years, and then I came back to Jamaica, and then I was like I joined my mother with the business, and then I was just doing jewelry, and we used to supply hotel gift shops. hotel gift shops with silver jewelry and semi-precious stones. And I really loved it because it just gave me the best life in my 20s. I was just traveling all over Southeast Asia. I was just bumming around for like weeks on end. Like, I'm doing
Yes.
business, I'm designing jewelry, I'm making jewelry. But we did become the largest accessories distributor to gift shops in Jamaica. And then, like I kind of run out of steam with this a little bit now, and I said, boy, I need to do something else. And yeah, I came into real estate, and boy, I found my thing. Like, I've never looked back. I've never looked back. I can't even imagine, like, I can't even remember what life was like before real estate. I do mean, this is my thing, you know?
But all of those things that you just said about, Papine and going with your mom and listening to her haggle and negotiate. See, haggle, by the way, Dagmar, is not a derogatory thing to say in Jamaica. Like, if you're a good haggler, you trust me,
No, man, you're
then you're
good.
ahead of everybody. So listen, right? Watching her do that, and then in the jewelry business, learning some negotiating skills and
Yeah,
closing and
learning
things
a
like
lot
that.
there. 'Cause we used to go to China, India, Turkey. I mean, I negotiated with people of different religions, and they all like negotiate and deal with it differently. Like, Chinese only negotiate through the calculator, you know. Like, it's interesting how people do business. I just did not know, like, that would shape me into, the entrepreneur that I am today. Nothing is ever wasted. I would want your listeners to know that. Like, sometimes people might think, like, in the moment, like, what they're doing is not leading them anywhere. But hindsight is 2020. And when you look back, you're like, boy, that wasn't really a wasted endeavor, really. I was just sharpening my tools. That was just my skills that I was building for this thing that I'm now doing. You know? Don't you
I
think?
love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just like saying, any relationship. I mean, I haven't been married yet. I've gotten close, but you are. It's just like saying, "Oh, relationship was a waste of time." No, it's not. It's gearing you for getting ready to what's coming next and what your long term is going to be. And the same in business and in life, you can have. They say that the average person, unless you're strictly a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, you can change your career 4 to 5 times, which I think is smart to do because then it makes you multifaceted in these different fields and it helps prepare you for whatever you end up doing in your life. And people can change that. People go back to school at 50 and decide to be an attorney.
Absolutely. You're
So
ever evolving. Like, who you were at 20 is definitely not who you're going to be at 30 or 40. And it is just ever changing. And you use the analogy of relationships. I mean, I'm married, but my husband is my second husband. I got it wrong the first time. You know what I mean? But you learn lessons. You learn lessons from the first time, and you look back and you think, well, that wasn't a waste of time, because knowing what is right for you and knowing what you want is really a process of elimination. It really is a process of elimination. Sometimes you're just stabbing in the dark and you don't really know, you have to try it on for size. Try it on for size. Don't get
literally,
don't get hung up with labels.
no, of course not. Okay, that didn't work. Thank you. Next, Ariana Grande, one of the best songs, because that's life, and we can't dwell and we can't hold on to these things, and we have to keep on moving. But you did just mention your husband, and I think it's interesting that I remember because he was at ATL with my buddy Steve Hector, and
Yes.
shout out Hector, who no one thought would ever get married, and he wouldn't even care that I'm saying this
Oh
because
my
not a
gosh,
one
like
person
what? Right? Like, look at that. Look at
and
that.
pick me and everything. No,
Look
sir.
what a difference. I mean, we blinked and then now he's got, like, I don't know how many kids. No, how many kids do you
Yep,
have?
he has a stepson and 2 kids. Yeah, he's got 3. So he's got the blended family. God bless him.
When you
But
meet
what
the
is it
right
like?
one, you meet the right one. That's what that shows
It
you.
is what it is. Yeah. And it happens when it happens. So what is it like working together after? It's not like you guys met and you were working together and you continued. He was in a different field and then he obviously came on board with you because you were growing in the business and you saw an opportunity for him. But I always ask couples this because I know this even growing up and working in my family's commercial real estate business, working with my dad and my brother for years is like, woo. But I'm curious what the dynamic is, how, my brother and I talk about this a lot, how even at the dinner table, it was like always business. My mom would say, all right, already. Are you guys constantly talking about work? Or is there more personal moments in between? Or what's that balance?
We're constantly talking about work. We are, but I mean, literally, I mean, it's not like we're on top of each other. We don't spend every moment of the day together because we start off in the morning and then we sort of divide and conquer. And then in the evening, we come together and then we debrief. But I feel like Taff and I have conversations that go on for like weeks. Like we just have the conversation. It just starts on a Monday and then like by Friday we're like finishing off the conversation because we're getting interrupted by phone calls, we're getting interrupted by our kids or whatever. So, we very rarely get like time to just shoot the shit. And if we do get that time, we're talking about business. We're talking about real estate. We're talking about the deals we're working on. We're talking about our clients. And that's just us. I mean, I guess it makes us slightly boring to other people.
I didn't say that. Listen, there's never a dull moment. There are some couples, they just sit there. It's like when you go out to a restaurant and you see people and they haven't said one word and they're sitting there just eating. And I'm like, oh my
I
God,
have
I'm going to
seen
go over
them.
there and sit down with them. Somebody start a freaking conversation already.
Yes, I have seen that where like the couples are just in their phone for the whole meal. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's so sad. What we do is we put our phones together when we're like out for dinner and we just like put them in the center of the table and we're like, okay, we're not looking at our phones. You have to like make a deliberate, like, action, you know, to be like, no, we're gonna lock in now. We're gonna have this time together. Yeah, I do see that a lot at restaurants. I do.
I remember the first time I ever saw it, I was living in Manhattan and I was with my ex-boyfriend and all we did was talk and drink and eat at the same time. And I look over and I'm like, is this normal? I'm like, I know I talk a lot and I talk when I eat, I talk, but they were just like sitting there and I felt like this moment. And I made a joke and I said, I'm going to go sit down with them and I'm literally going to start a conversation and be like, hey guys, what are we doing tonight? Because it was like deafening to see that. But I would assume that it helps strengthen your relationship because I feel like commonalities in couples are so important. And my mom never worked in the family business, but she's an artist, she's creative. You've seen all her paintings
I love your
at our
mother's
old house. And but my dad was always keeping my mom informed. She understands the business because, commercial and residential are very different in a lot of ways. But she always was involved in deals, and we would go to her and ask questions and get a more creative insight. So I think it's important that you have to have commonality if you're going to last as a couple. And the fact that you brought him in and really taught him the business, right? It's not like he was already working in real estate.
Well, he was kind of supporting me like from day one, really. I mean, he was my open house assistant, he would put up all of my signs and he would, give me, I mean, he was always such a support, like kind of in the background. So I guess he was learning from then. And then COVID happened and he got laid off from his job. And so his mom, actually, my mother-in-law, Gwen, and she was just like, why don't you go and do the real estate course and join up with Rebecca? Because she's so busy. Because in COVID, girl, it was crazy. I mean, people were just buying houses without even looking at them. They were just like
I
one
remember.
video call away from like buying a house. They were like, show me that, you just walked around with your video and they'd be like, yeah, I'll buy that. I'm stuck in a lockdown in Canada. I'll buy it. Where do I send the check?
Isn't it crazy? Literally, just do like a video call and be like, there's a bidding war already. So when we hang up this video, you better put that offer in.
Yeah, no, I mean it was hectic, and he decided to like, yeah, take the plunge and join me in real estate. And there were a lot of naysayers, girl. I must tell you, there were like people who were just like, it's a bad idea to work with your husband. You're gonna get it's not gonna work, you know. Or they'd be like,
Girl, you decide I don't business. I don't business.
no, I mean, or
Don't worry
they're like,
about me.
how can just living off of commissions? No, like that's like the worst idea ever. Like somebody needs to go and get a job that like pays a monthly salary. And I'm like, well, that's not happening here. Right. I'm like, so we literally had failure was not an option for us. Like we
Especially when
literally,
you have pickney, right? You have mouths to feed.
yes, when you have pick me and so we're just like, no, 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 no. We have to make this work. And I mean, we're really coming from far. And when we look back at, like the early days, like, just the early days of our relationship and where we are now. I mean, we're 13 years together, 10 years married this year. We have our anniversary coming up. Yeah. When I look back, I'm just like, boy, we're really coming from far. I think it's important in a relationship if you have someone that you can build with, that you can, you're building something together. And I think that it's so important, that it helps with the natural balancing of the male female power dynamic in a relationship. If you're both starting with like zero, then the only way is up, and you just do it together. You just do it together. So that's the secret sauce to our relationship, is that we don't forget where we started. That's
I love that.
yeah, we don't
There's
forget
no
where we
power
started.
struggle in the relationship because a lot of times,
No, no, not at
unfortunately,
all.
the man has a higher paying job because they just do in general, or maybe the wife is home with the kids and she's not working at all and she feels like she's not appreciated, and he's like, well, I'm here making all the money. So it's nice to be in a position, like you said, you're doing it together. So how did the opportunity of the agency even come about for you?
Instagram, which is just a really crazy story. So essentially, it really happened when Taff met we have two other partners, Ian Hurdle and Sean O'Neill, and they're also the managing partners of the agency Turks and Caicos. And Taff and I had been following this guy, Ian Hurdle, who has the best Instagram handle imaginable, Caribbean. I mean, look at that as a play on words, right? Right. So we've been following him for a while, and Taff just like DM'd him one day and he was like, dude, that is the most awesome real estate video I've ever seen in my life. And the two of them just started like this like little like friendship like over Instagram, and then it like evolved to phone calls, and then it evolved to like them referring each other clients, across borders and all of that kind of thing. And then like literally that was in 2021. And then in 2023, I was just walking in the neighborhood and my husband turned around and said, guess what? Ian's coming to Jamaica. And I went, why? What have you promised? Why is he coming? And he said, nothing. I'm like, you signed something? Like I just felt like something was in the air, like my husband was cooking up something. And anyway, sure enough, Ian came and we toured him around Jamaica for 3 days. And, it was amazing. And at the end of the 3 days, he said, let's open the agency, Jamaica. And I said yes. And Taff said yes. And then I said, oh God, how are we going to do it? So yeah, that's really how it started. It was all Ian's idea. And then, he put us up to it and he was just like, listen. And I was just like, I'm not sure I'm up to this. And he's just like, yeah, you are. He's like, I'm not open. He's like, we're not opening in this country unless you and Taff are doing it, unless you partner with us. So,
Thing.
so that was it. So it took a lot of work to get here, but next month we're celebrating 2 years open. It's been good. We've built out a team, and we're, the first year of business, you like literally just treading water, trying to keep the lights on, like you're just like, oh my God, you have mornings where you wake up in a cold sweat. You're just like, Jesus, like, what have I done? And then, year two, it's kind of like, building out the dream now. You're building out the team, you're building out the business, you're putting your systems and processes in place, and you're really like amping it up. And now that we are like really set like Jello, in the market, we're set like Jello. No, we're coming to take it over. Like we just like this year is my year. I've decided.
Go girl. Yes.
Yes.
I love this for you. We love
Yeah.
encouraging females. We love hearing their stories. And I know Dagmar, she hasn't asked you anything yet. That's because she's very analytical. And I see her over there in her brain. She comes with the hard question. Just wait. She's going to hit you soon. I see her.
Right,
She's
no, it's
marinating over
coming.
there. Yeah, I could see her. So she'll come with the heavy stuff soon. But I love everything you're saying. And this is what Dagmar and I are always talking about. First of all, women supporting women, female empowerment. And we love badass women in their fields, literally kicking ass, taking names, showing that it's not a man's world, that women can succeed, that women make money. We're just as smart. We're definitely better looking. And part of that is women supporting women because in terms of residential real estate, right? There's more female brokers than male, and then in commercial is mostly
Absolutely.
male. And the In the early 2000s, I was like there was maybe 3%. And this is in New York City, which would be the biggest,
A
there
big
were
market.
no female brokers. So when I walked into with my dad, it was like, oh my God, there's a female there. So I know the real estate markets, commercial and residential in different areas of the world. I know it in Jamaica. I know it in the States. I know it in London. It's a very tough business. It's a it's a commission only, what you were speaking about earlier. If you don't, if you're not hitting the bricks and you're not out there, and as my dad would say, forget anything, just get exclusives. If once you have an exclusive, even if you don't get both sides, a buyer comes in, it doesn't matter. You have the exclusive, you have a property, you're selling it, it's going to happen.
I tell
Period.
my
End of
agents
story.
you have to list to live. That's what I
Absolutely.
tell them. You have to list to live. And if you don't have an exclusive, you're not employed.
That's
Because you're not
no,
employed.
you cannot just be a buyer's agent. The world doesn't work like that. And if you are, you're lucky you're just skirting by. But if you could just tell the listeners a little bit, because I know a lot of people are going to listen and go, God, look at her. She's so incredible. Like, I can be this person. Yes, you can. So explain how you get listings, how you get your listings and your exclusives, and how you have international buyers when it's not one of your listings.
How I get listings is really just thinking about what the problem is and how I can solve it. As real estate agents, basically, we come into people's life usually at a time of a crisis. I mean, there's a divorce, there's been a death in the family, someone is sick, they have to sell because they need money for medical expenses, or that, with the selling, a lot of the time it's some dark situations, like taking place in the background. Not always. Sometimes it could just be that they're downsizing, that they're elderly now and they can't manage a house and what have you. So I first seek out what the problem is by proactive proactively asking questions and listening to the answers. I think a lot of people go in there and they're just like, I'm the best agent and this and that. And, you should list with me because of blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what's the objective? What's the point? Where are we going? What are we doing? And I want you to tell me what you need me to do. Right. And then I will listen and then I'll say, yeah, I think I can do that. I don't think I can do that, but maybe I can do this. So I think people just appreciate the fact that I listen. I don't wait for my turn to speak, and I don't interrupt them. And also the second thing that you can do to get listings is just be knowledgeable, know the market. Do your research, do your homework. When people call you and ask you how much did 22 Strawberry Lane sell for, right? You should pretty much be able to answer them. You need to know what's going on in your market and what's happening, and you should be able to answer any question they may have. I mean, I'm shopping in the supermarket and I'm literally like looking at the things on the shelf, and somebody will come up to me and they'll just go, "Hi, Rebecca," and I'm like, "Hi," and they go, "How's the market?" And I have to tell them, like, in the supermarket, I'm like, "Well, I mean, like, what you're talking, like residential, commercial. There, let me give you the breakdown." You've got to be able to know what's happening. So just know what's happening and listen to your clients. It's not hard.
No, it's not, but a lot of people get it wrong. And a lot of times people just yes their clients. And I remember this from the commercial days where after, right before the crash in 2008, it was like
Boy,
part of the reason is because everything was so overpriced. And it was a lot of people on Wall Street or people in the film industry were like, I'm going to buy commercial properties. I want to buy shopping centers. I want to buy office buildings. And they were overpaying and they didn't know what they were doing. And the brokers, okay, agents or brokers, and my dad was a broker, right? Because he was a principal also. And he would say, listen, I've been in this business too long. I'm also a principal. I'm not selling this property at that price for you because it's overpriced. And then when the buyer comes and he's never going to be able to resell it, and then the market's going to shift too far, we're just not going to do this. So he would decline sometimes some clients and say, no, it's too overpriced. It's going to take too long. And we're so far apart. So how do you bring some buyers down to reality? For instance, let's say someone has something in Porty, just because I grew up there. It's the best parish in Jamaica. And they're on the sea and, oh, but I'm on the sea. And you're like, okay, but you don't even have a quarter of an acre of land. You're only 3,000 square feet, but you want $5 million. It's never going to happen. So how do you bring your clients down to reality and to a place where they don't have seller's remorse, but they also are comfortable and they trust that if you have to shave off $1 million, 700,000, it's real money, you know?
It is real money. Well, I always try and hear. I never tell them a price. I never say, like, I think this is a price. I always like to hear what they're thinking first, right? And then I will kind of say, okay, well, I think that is around about right. Or I think, no, I think you're way off because of X, Y, Z. A lot of the times when people inflate their prices because they really don't want to sell. So sometimes it might not be where you're like turning down the listing, like, oh no, because it's overpriced. It's because you're not working with a seller who's really wanting to sell a lot of the times. That's why prices go up and they're inflated and this and that. A lot of the times, realtors, we do it to ourselves because we overpromise and underdeliver. So to get a listing, an agent will say, yeah, man, I can get you $10 million for the plane, and then, it doesn't sell and it sits on the market for like 2, 3 years. And then I come along, and I'm like, oh, actually, this is like a $5 million listing. And they're like, oh, but so and so said it was 10 million. And I go, yeah, they were lying. And then I have to slowly like go through, like, this is why it makes sense. But yeah, pricing is important, especially in the current market. Precision pricing that's what they're calling it. Precision pricing.
Oh, excuse me, that's a
Precision
new
price.
term. I'm sorry.
That's a new Precision pricing is all it's what it's about. Like if someone is not gonna, you gotta hit that price right on the head because people just don't want their time wasted. They just don't want their time wasted,
No
you
one
know?
wants that. I don't want my time wasted if I go on a blind date after half an hour. I'm like, I have to go. I'm tired. I'm bored. Good
Are
night.
you are you what you're like, do you just message your friend and get her to call and so that,
No,
"Oh, I'm
I
so
already,
sorry.
yeah, I'm always,
I've
or
I've
I'll
got
tell
to
my
go, my
parents,
job needs to go to the."
God forbid Oliver needs to go, but I'll pull an Oliver or I'll have a family member call and what? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's an emergency. I had to do that twice in New York. Maybe I could think of back in the day, but it is pricing listen, this is the oldest phrase, but it's the truest one in real estate, commercial or residential. It's only worth what someone is willing to pay. And that at the end of the day is the truth. And it's always going to be the truth. It's what someone is willing to write the check for, period. End of story. And I
End of
think
story.
end of story. And I feel like the top agents, again, this is whether it's in residential or commercial, are the ones, like you said, that are knowledgeable. If someone used to call me and say, oh, well, this shopping center, and I go, Bill, your price per foot, you're like crazy. The comp down the street. Know your comps. Please be knowledgeable. But also, the other part that is extremely important is the relationship. If someone likes you, they're going to do business with you. I mean, that's just period.
This is a relationship business, 110%. And never,
Absolutely.
never, never forget it. Never forget it. People want to work with good people. That's just how it is. A property priced correctly is a property quickly sold. That's my little riddle.
I love it. But you also have a positive attitude and you're confident, which is part of it. And then the other part is going back to women empowering women, especially in this business, because I would assume that most of your agents are females. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is also having the right people around you, I think is so important. Aside from you and your husband, obviously, who you have around you as your agent and who you surround yourself with in terms of business is really important. So how do you choose and decide, because you want the right energy with the element of people with some experience, maybe some of them are coming in with no real estate experience, but how do you keep
Yes.
the good energy? Because in this business, it's tough.
Yes, it is tough. Oh, that's a very good question, Chloe. Ooh, the questions have been so good. I'm so enjoying this conversation.
Well, Dagmar's going to hit you. She's going to come at the end, so be prepared. These are easy
I
ones.
will.
I'm
These
doing
are
the easy
easy.
questions.
How do I know? Well, really, like the agency Jamaica, it's not for everyone. We say we're the next generation of real estate because we do things differently. So I'm looking for people who are bold. I'm looking for people with a level of confidence. I prefer them to be I mean, I can hire for the personality and I can train the skill. If they have a
Mm,
good personality and they're eager to learn and their ethical compass points due north, yes, I will give them a chance. I have quite a few newly licensed agents. And I really, I choose them for their energy, their personality, but also for their why. So I'm always asking them, why do you want to get into the real estate business? Now, if I get a generic response like, well, I just really love houses and I just think it's weird. If I get something like generic like that, I'm just like, no, I want the skinny. I want to know the real reason. I want to hear it. I want to be financially independent from my man, or or I want to stop taking money from my parents, or I want to move out, or I want to do this, or I want to give my kids this, or I want to hear the real reason why you want to make money, because we're coming in this to make money and we're not coming in this for you know like vanity. I'm interested in people who actually want to be of service. We are public servants. We are serving the public, right? Are you willing to submit yourself in service of your fellow man? That is really what real estate sales is about, right? If you're not, and you think that it's all about you know, high heels and push-up bras, then you can't come and work with Rebecca and Taff. Like, it can't. It can't work. So I want to get to the bottom of, why do you need or want to financially improve, in your life? I want to know why. So
I
that's
love that.
really it.
Well, that's great because everyone has, different reasons why they want to do any job or are looking to shift into any new career and industry. And I think that those are the questions my dad used to was really important was the same thing. He would hire these really young guys that were really good looking and really smart. They went to Ivy League schools and they have young families and they were hungry. They wanted to make money and
Yeah.
their wives were
Yeah.
working and had great jobs and they're like they could do the commission thing. So there's a lot of different factors. But I'd like to know what you do for your own time for just Rebecca to unwind, have some wine with friends, maybe have a spa day. What's important to you outside of, working and being with your husband and the kids? Like, what do you do for you? Just you,
Oh
boo.
God. Just me? Oh,
Just Nicole,
massages.
Rebecca.
Massages. I'm a massage tete, okay?
Yes.
You will find me everywhere I go. I will be like, is there a massage place nearby? Like, I'm always massages. I have someone that comes to my house. And Sabrina, shout out Sabrina, right? She comes to my house. That is my me time. I lock the doors, I light the candles, I have my massage. And my morning coffee. My morning coffee is my sacred time. I'm really, I can't really speak to anyone until I've had my first cup of coffee. That sounds terrible, but that's it. That is really what I do for myself. My morning coffee time, my reading. I'm reading Let Them by Mel Robbins. Amazing book. My
Everyone is obsessed
reading.
with that book right now.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with this book. I'm obsessed with it. Obsessed, obsessed to the core. And I'm like devouring it right now. And massages. Really, I'm kind of I'm simple. I'm simple to please.
I
Just
love
give me a
that.
1.5 hour deep tissue. Deep tissue. I'm good.
Give me 90 minutes on that table and oil me down and up and all around.
Exactly. Exactly. I wish I could say something more exciting, like, oh, I hike, but I'd be lying.
Yeah. Like, I'm a diamond skier I go to Aspen. I'm on double diamond and black. Like, who cares? It's whatever feeds your soul and whatever makes you feel good. But honestly, just being in Jamaica, like you said, just sitting out in the backyard or just breeze up
Yeah.
blue and whatever it is, just
If
being
you walk
there.
out there, great view of the city. Like, I can see right out to the sea. I just sit out there and stare at that. And I mean, really,
Are you
I
right in
live where
Jacks Hill?
people.
Are you in Jacks Hill or
They're
Stony Hill?
I'm in Stony Hill. I'm in Stony Hill. I mean, I live where people vacation. I don't got no worries. You know? What kind of people literally save up to come where I live. So I'm
So true.
blessed. I'm blessed.
It's so
Yeah.
true. It really is. and maybe we're just biased, but I think the best island in the Caribbean, hands down. I've been to many others, not impressed. Jamaica is its own culture. A lot of these islands don't. These Dutch islands and these British islands, it's not an actual culture. Jamaica is a real roots and culture, home of Red Stripe, Bob Marley, jerk chicken.
We have
There aren't
red
other
one.
islands that can say those things. And the people and the vibes, that for me is just like
Absolutely. We're special.
it is. It's a
We
very,
are
very
special.
special.
And we know we're special.
It's the
It's
truth
fine.
though.
It is the
It's
truth.
all about Jamaica. Dagmar, you would love Jamaica because it's very peaceful and I, c- I can't explain it. I tell people you just have to go. And growing up, people would say, like, my friend's parents, oh my God, is it dangerous there? And I'm like, dangerous. I'm like, go to Haiti, go to Colombia, go to all these other places. I'm like, no, it's not dangerous. It's a beautiful place. And there's the vibes. There's no other vibes like Jamaica. There is no other vibes in the world
Like,
like Jamaica.
and what
They
people with
will,
that,
yep,
I have an answer for them. I say, if you just keep your head down, if you live good with people, if you don't mix up with the wrong people and you
don't get
don't do bad
mixed
things,
up. Yeah.
yeah, no harm will come to you. No harm will come to you. Just live good with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a lifestyle in Jamaica. What makes Jamaica special?
It
Like the
is
spirit of it.
totally.
So from your 20s to today, what shaped you, Rebecca? What made you the woman you are today?
Wow, you were
I told
kidding.
you. She sits back in the
What
cut and then she comes.
what has made me the woman I am today? Definitely just life experiences. Many things have shaped me, but I would definitely say I can I can pinpoint certain moments. Obviously getting married, then getting
First
divorced.
time?
Yes, that was really um that was really tough. And then losing my dad. I lost my dad in 2018. I mean, that made me grow up, I would say. Losing my
I'm
dad made
sorry,
me grow
babe.
up. I think thank you. When you lose a parent, I think it's like, I heard someone say this. When you lose a parent, it's like the day that you really feel like you're no longer a child, that you're like now an adult. You know what I mean? And at the time, I had a little baby, my second born. Um, it was really tough. I would say, getting married at 23, divorced at 26, and losing my dad. Those are like the pivotal moments where I can say, yes, that has shaped me into the woman that I am today. I can just say that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. Let's just put it that way. I'm a lot. Yeah, I think all women are a lot stronger than we think we are, until, like, you have to be strong, and then you say, my mother always says it's like a well. Like, you dig deep into that energy well, and you find the strength, to keep going, and you just keep going lower and lower into that well, and you're just like, whoa, I really made it through that. I really did that. That was crazy. So yeah,
What
to
helped you
answer your
getting,
question, that's
Rebecca, what helped you getting through that?
what helped me. Definitely my faith. Definitely my faith. Having my little quiet time in the morning with God, I call him, right? That got me through it. And I would say my husband, I would be nowhere without that man. I really don't like when women say, "Oh, like, I don't need a man," and da 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 da. I'm not one of those women. You will need a man if you find the right one. What you need
That's
is
the
a good
key.
man,
Right.
not a
Right.
crappy
You
man.
only need it if it's the
Okay?
right one because I don't need anybody unless he is right and he can show up on my doorstep.
Unless he's
Otherwise,
a
I'm
right
done.
one. So my husband is my rock. A lot of people just, I mean, they might say that's a little weak to say that. I don't know. Like, I think
I don't think
modern
that's weak at
society
all.
kind of like punishes that. But, like, I always say to my husband, I have to die first. Like, that's
You're
what I
like, I
say to him.
can't be with that.
I'm
Right. Honey, you are
I
way
have
too
to die.
young to even be thinking about that.
I know, but you know what I mean. Like
Course, you're like,
that's
I
how it
can't
is.
do this with that. No, I listen.
But yeah,
What's the
I
saying?
can't do
Behind
life
every
without
strong man is a
that.
stronger woman.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, Dagmar, definitely my husband, my faith, and my friends. I mean, I have my best friend Jivica. She's from Barbados originally, and she is my like, she's my other rock. She's my other rock. I'm very blessed, and I have a wonderful family, and I'm blessed to have my mother still in my life. And I call my mother every day, and I ask for my mother's advice every single day of life.
Does she live in Jamaica still, or she's
I've
back
got
in England?
Yes, yes, she does. Yeah, she lives in Jamaica, and so I'm very blessed. Can't complain.
That's
That's
amazing.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you for letting me share.
Does your mom spend a lot of time with the kids, with the picnic? Stop it.
She does. She does. I'm very lucky because they have my mom and they also have my in laws. So, my husband is originally from Zimbabwe, but his parents now live in Jamaica. So, they are very lucky because they have
Wow. When
both.
did that happen?
Yeah, they moved. Well, they lived in Jamaica for like a stint. And then they left, went back to Africa, and then in 2021 they moved back like basically to retire. So,
And you found them a lovely home.
of course I did. Of course I did. I found them a lovely home. Found, I found them a lovely home, and so yeah, so they get to have grandparents. I never had grandparents growing up. By the time I came around, like both sets of grandparents had basically died. And so I'm really happy that my children get to have that grandparent, like, love, because that grandparent love just like looks like it hits different.
It's
Yeah,
totally
for
different.
sure.
That's amazing that they have that. And as your mom, does she par with Taft's parents too?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're one big happy family, like that's how it's gotta be. Like, I mean, I think about it all the time and I'm like, boy, how did a girl from Jamaica end up with marrying a man from like Bulawayo, Zimbabwe? I mean, it's just like a crazy like thing, but we have so much in common in terms of like our values and like, you know, how we grew up, our childhoods, and he grew up in obviously Zimbabwe, which is like a majority Black African country. Same in Jamaica, so
Just gonna say two
we're used to being,
two white people
on
in
one.
predominantly Black country. I mean, so when they see
Yes,
him, you're like, oh, my
yeah,
husband's from Zimbabwe.
yeah.
Him white, him white.
No,
He's
I
not like
know it's
kind of
kind of funny
white,
because I remember,
right? Because he's like whitey white. I was like, whitey. Like, come on.
like I remember my grand aunt, like she was just like, where? Because I was telling her about it, and I was like, oh, he's from Zimbabwe, and she was like, she kind of looked, and I went, don't worry. I was like, he's a lesser spotted white African. That's what I said to her.
Well, that I
Like a
was just
lesser
gonna say
spotted
that. Yeah,
leopard
it's like
or
he's like a
whatever. I was
South
like, he's a
African-ish. Look, yeah, it's so funny.
yeah,
But I think that
like, yeah.
people,
It's so funny.
unfortunately, they have this. I want to be politically correct the way I say this, where certain countries they just assume people are a certain color, and that's why it's important that we Jamaica high color and low color because there's everything in between, and it's or
There is
yeah.
absolutely, yeah. I
I
got
think
a
it's
lot
real.
of flack in university. Like, there was this gang of girls at university that like
Oh, did you go to
accosted
uni in
me,
Canada?
and they were just like, "Oh." I went to university in England at the University of Hull in East Yorkshire.
Oh, darling.
Yeah, these girls came up to me and were like, "We hear that you're telling people that you're Jamaican like this." And I'm like, "Well, because I am Jamaican." And they're like, "You're not Jamaican, you're white," like this. And I'm
You
like,
sound like you're from Essex. I love that
"No,
accent.
I'm pretty sure I'm Jamaican." And she's just like, "Prove it." And I'm just like, "Test me." Like she had
You're
to like
like,
shoot out
yeah.
some questions, and then it turned out that they were children of Jamaicans who had never stepped foot into Jamaica in their entire lives. So I was like, "Girl, please." I was like, "Goodbye."
Rebecca, thank you so much for coming and inspiring Chloe. Not so much Chloe was already inspiring, but inspiring me about your life in Jamaica and being a realtor, but also how you got there and your path and what you accomplished for yourself and how you enjoy life. I think that was beautiful. And I know our listeners will enjoy hearing it. How can somebody reach you if they want to connect with you and buy or sell property in Jamaica?
Wonderful. Dagmar, thank you so much. Chloe, thank you so much for having me. It's been absolutely incredible. I love you girls. It's been the greatest. If anyone wants to connect with me, they can on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Rebecca, Rebecca, sells real estate. That's it.
Okay, wonderful. And I will also add it to our video description and to the short. So everybody who's interested in Connect with Rebecca can do that easily. Thank you so much, everybody. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Problem Solver. Check out our website, Problem Solver, and go to Instagram, Problem Solver, and to the Chutzpah Girl on TikTok and on Threads. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
lady.
Please note that the views shared by our guests are their own. We invite honest stories and diverse perspectives, but they don't necessarily reflect our opinions or serve as professional advice.